Chapter 8. My Sister the Flowerpot. The ride back wasn't fun. Walt and I held onto the boat while our teeth chattered and our eyes jiggled. The magic fog had turned the color of blood. Ghostly voices whispered angrily, like they decided to riot and loot the ethereal world. Sooner than I expected, Freak pushed his way out of the duat. We found ourselves over the New Jersey dockyards, our boat trailing steam as Freak bobbled wearily through the air. In the distance, the Manhattan skyline gleamed gold in the sunrise. Walt and I hadn't spoken during the trip. The duat tends to put a damper on conversation. Now he regarded me sheepishly. "I should explain some things," he said. I can't pretend I wasn't curious. As his sickness had progressed, Walt had gotten more and more secretive. I wondered what he'd been talking about with Thoth. But it was my business. After Sadie learned my secret name last spring and gotten a free tour of my innermost thoughts, I become sensitive about respecting people's privacy. "Look, Walt, it's your personal life," I said. "If you don't want to tell... It's not just personal. You need to know what's going on. I won't be around much longer." I gazed down at the harbor, the Statue of Liberty passing below us. For months I'd known Walt was dying. It never got easier to accept. I remembered what Apophis had said at the Dallas Museum. Walt wouldn't live long enough to see the end of the world. "Are you sure?" I asked. "Isn't there some way..." "Anubis is sure," he said. "I've got until sunset tomorrow, at the very least." I didn't want to hear another impossible deadline. By sunset tonight, we had to save the ghost of an evil magician. By sunset tomorrow, Walt will die. And the sunrise after that, if we were really lucky, we could look forward to doomsday. I never liked being thwarted. Whenever I felt like something was impossible, I usually tried even harder out of sheer stubbornness. But at this point, I felt like Apophis was having a good laugh at my expense. "Oh, you're not a quitter?" he seemed to be asking. "How about now? What if we give you a few more impossible tasks? Are you a quitter now?" Anger made a small hard knot in my gut. I kicked the side of the boat and nearly broke my foot. Walt blinked. "Carter, it's..." "Don't say it's all right," I snapped. "It's not all right." I wasn't mad at him. I was mad at the unfairness of his stupid curse, and the fact that I kept failing people who depended on me. My parents had died to give Sadie and me a chance to save the world, which we were close to botching. In Dallas, dozens of good magicians had died because they tried to help me. Now we were about to lose Walt. Sure, he was important to Sadie, but I relied on him just as much. Walt was my unofficial lieutenant in Brooklyn House. The other kids listened to him. He was a calming presence in every crisis, the deciding vote in every debate. I could trust him with any secret. And even with making the execration statue of Apophis, which I couldn't tell my uncle about, if Walt died... "It won't happen," I said. "I refuse." Wild thoughts ran through my mind. Maybe Anubis was lying to Walt about his imminent death, trying to push Walt away from Sadie. Okay, unlikely. Sadie wasn't that much of a prize. "Yeah, Sadie, I really did just say that. Just checking to see if you were still paying attention." Maybe Walt could beat the odds. People survived cancer miraculously. Why not ancient curses? Maybe we could put him in a suspended animation like Iskandar had done for Zia, until we found an antidote. Sure, his family had been searching for a cure unsuccessfully for centuries. Jazz, our best healer, had tried everything with no luck. But maybe we'd overlook something. "Carter," Walt said, "will you let me finish? We've got to make plans." "How can you be so calm?" I demanded. Walt fingered his Shen necklace, the twin of the one he'd given Sadie. "I've known about my curse for years. I won't let it stop me from doing what I need to. One way or another, I'm going to help you beat Apophis." "How?" I said. "You just told me..." "Anubis has an idea," Walt said. "He's been helping me make sense of my powers." "You mean..." I glanced at Walt's hands. Several times I'd seen him turn objects to ashes simply by touching them, the way he'd done to that Creo-Sphinx in Dallas. The power didn't come from any of his magic items. None of us understood it, and as Walt's disease progressed, he seemed less and less able to control it, which made me think twice about giving the guy a high five. Walt flexed his fingers. "Anubis thinks he understands why I have that ability. And there's more. He thinks there might be a way to extend my life." That was such good news that I let out a shaky laugh. Why didn't you say so? He can cure you?" "No," Walt said. "Not a cure. And it's risky. It's never been done before." "That's what you were talking to Thoth about." Walt nodded. "Even if Anubis' plan works, there could be side effects. You might not like it." He lowered his voice. "Sadie might not like it. Unfortunately, I have a vivid imagination. I envision Walt turning into some sort of undead creature, a withered mummy, or a ghostly ba, or a disfigured demon. In Egyptian magic, side effects could be pretty extreme. I tried not to let my emotions show. "We want you to live. Don't worry about Sadie." I could tell from Walt's eyes that he worried about Sadie a lot. Seriously, what did he see in my sister? Stop hitting me, Sadie. I'm just being honest. Walt flexed his fingers. Maybe it was my imagination, but I thought I detected wisps of gray steam curling from his hands, as if just talking about his strange power had made it turn active. I won't make the decision yet, Walt said. Not until I'm on my last breath. I want to talk to Sadie first, explain to her... He rested his hand on the side of the boat. That was a mistake. The woven reeds turned gray under his touch. Walt, stop! I yelled. He jerked his hand away, but it was too late. The boat crumbled to ashes. We lunged for the ropes, and thankfully they did not crumble, because maybe Walt was paying more attention now. Freak squawked as the boat disappeared. And suddenly Walt and I were dangling under the Griffin's belly, holding onto the ropes for dear life and bonking into each other as we flew above the skyscrapers of Manhattan. Walt! I yelled over the wind. You really need to get a handle on that power! Sorry, he shouted back. My arms were aching, but somehow we made it to Brooklyn House without plummeting to our deaths. Freak set us down on the roof, where Bast was waiting, her mouth agape. Why are you swinging from ropes? She demanded. Because it's so fun, I growled. What's the news? Behind the chimneys, a frail voice warbled. Hello! The ancient sun god Ra popped out. He gave us a toothless grin and hobbled around the roof, muttering, Weasels! Weasels! Cookie, cookie, cookie! He reached into the folds of his loincloth and tossed cookie crumbs in the air like confetti. And yes, it was just as disgusting as it sounds. Bass tensed her arms, and her knife shot into her hands. Probably just an involuntary reflex, but she looked tempted to use those blades on someone. Anyone. She reluctantly slipped the blades back into her sleeves. The news? She said. I'm on babysitting duty, thanks to your Uncle Amos, who asked me for a favor. And Sadie's shop tea is waiting for you downstairs. Shall we? Explaining Sadie and her shop tea would take a whole separate recording. My sister had no talent for crafting magical statues. That didn't stop her from trying. She'd gotten this harebrained idea that she could create the perfect shop tea to her avatar, speak with her voice, and do all her chores like a remote-controlled robot. All her previous attempts had exploded or gone haywire, terrorizing Khufu and the initiates. Last week she'd created a magical thermos with googly eyes that levitated around the room, yelling, Exterminate! Exterminate! Until it smacked me in the head. Sadie's latest shop tea was Sadie Jr., a gardener's nightmare. Not being much of an artist, Sadie had fashioned a vaguely human figure out of red ceramic flower pots, held together by magic string and duct tape. The face was an upside-down pot with a smiley face drawn in black marker. About time! The pot creature was waiting in my room when Walt and I came in. Its mouth didn't move, but Sadie's voice echoed from inside the face pot, as if she were trapped within the shop tea. That thought made me happy. Stop smiling, she ordered. I can see you, Carter. Hello, Walt. The pot monster made squeaky grinding noises as it stood up straight. One clunky arm rose and tried to fix Sadie's non-existent hair. Leave it to Sadie to be self-conscious around boys, even when she's made of pots and duct tape. We traded stories. Sadie told us about the impending attack on the first gnome that was supposed to go down at sunrise on the equinox, and the alliance between Sarah Jacobi's forces and Apophis. Wonderful news. Just great. In return, I told Sadie about our visit with Thoth. I shared the visions of Apophis that he'd shown me about our mother's precarious situation in the Duat, which made the pot monster shudder, and at the end of the world, which didn't seem to surprise her at all. I didn't tell Sadie about Apophis's offer to spare me if I gave up Ra. I didn't feel comfortable announcing that with Ra just outside the door singing songs about cookies, but I told her about the evil ghost Setna, whose trial would start at sunset in the Hall of Judgment. Uncle Vinny, Sadie said. Pardon? I asked. The face that spoke to me at the Dallas Museum, she said. It was obviously Setna himself. He warned me that we would need his help to understand the shadow the spell. He said we have to pull some strings and free him before sunset tonight. He meant the trial. We'll have to convince Dad to free him. I did mention that Thoth said he's a murderous psychopath, right? The pot monster made a clucking sound. Carter, it'll be fine. Befriending psychopaths is one of our specialities. She turned her flowerpot head toward Walt. You'll be coming along, I hope. Her tone had a hint of reproach, like she was still upset that Walt hadn't attended the school dance/mass blackout party. I'll be there, he promised. I'm fine. He shot me a warning look, but I wasn't going to contradict him. Whatever he and Anubis were plotting, I could wait for him to explain it to Sadie. Jumping in the middle of the whole Sadie-Walt-Anubis drama sounded about as much fun as diving into a food processor. Right, Sadie said. We'll meet you two at the Hall of Judgment before sunset tonight. That should give us time to finish up. Finish up? I asked. And who's us? It's hard to read expressions on a smiley face pot, but Sadie's hesitation told me enough. You aren't in the first gnome anymore, I guessed. What are you doing? A small errand, Sadie said. I'm off to see Bess. I frowned. Sadie went to see Bess in his nursing home almost every week, which was fine and all, but why now? You do understand we're in a hurry. It's necessary, she insisted. I've got an idea that might help us with our shadow project. Don't fret, Zia's with me. Zia? It was my turn to feel self-conscious. If I were a Flowerpot, I would have checked my hair. That's why Bash is watching Rod. Why exactly are you and Zia? Stop worrying, Sadie chided. I'll take good care of her. And no, Carter, she hasn't been talking about you. I have no idea how she feels about you. What? I wanted to punch Sadie Jr. in her ceramic face. I didn't say anything like that. Now, she chided. I don't think Zia cares what you wear. It's not a date. Just please brush your teeth for once. I'm going to kill you, I said. Love you too, brother dear. Ta! The pottery creature crumbled to pieces, leaving a mound of shards and a red clay face smiling up at me. Walt and I joined Bass outside my room. We leaned on the rail overlooking the great room while Ross skipped back and forth on the balcony, singing nursery songs in ancient Egyptian. Down below, our initiates were getting ready for the school day. Julian had a breakfast sausage sticking out of his mouth as he rummaged through his backpack. Felix and Sean were arguing over who stole whose math book. Little Shelby was chasing the other ankle biters with a fistful of crayons that shot rainbow-colored sparks. I'd never had a big family, but living at Brooklyn House, I felt like I had a dozen brothers and sisters. Despite the craziness, I enjoyed it, which made my next decision even harder. I told Vast about our plan to visit the Hall of Judgment. I don't like it, she said. Walt managed to laugh. Is there a plan you'd like better? She tilted her head. Now that you mention it, no. I don't like plans. I'm a cat. Still, if half the things I've heard about Setney are true... I know, I said. But it's our only shot. She wrinkled her nose. You don't want me to come along? You sure? Maybe I could get Newt or Chew to watch Raw. No, I said. Amos is going to need help at the first gnome. He doesn't have the numbers to fend off an attack from both the rebel magicians and Apophis. Bast nodded. I can't enter the first gnome, but I can patrol outside. If Apophis shows himself, I'll engage him in battle. He'll be at full strength, Walt warned. He's getting stronger by the hour. She lifted her chin defiantly. I fought him before. I know him better than anyone, Walt Stone. Besides, I owe it to Carter's family. And to Lord Ra. Kitty! Ra appeared behind us, patted Bast on the head, and skipped away. Meow! 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 Watching him prance around, I wanted to scream and throw things. We'd risked everything to revive the old sun god, hoping we'd get a divine pharaoh who could stand toe-to-toe with Apophis. Instead, we got a wrinkly, bald troll in a loincloth. Give me Ra, Apophis had urged. I know you hate him. I tried to put it out of my mind, but I couldn't quite shake that image of an island in the sea of chaos, a personal paradise where the people I loved would be safe. I knew it was a lie. Apophis would never deliver on that promise, but I could understand how Sarah Jacobi and Kwai might be tempted. Besides, Apophis knew how to strike a nerve. I did resent Ra for being so weak. Horus agreed with me. We don't need the old fool. The war god's voice spoke inside my head. I'm not saying you should give him to Apophis, but he is useless. We should put him aside and take the throne of the gods for ourselves. He made it sound so tempting. Such an obvious solution. But no, if Apophis wanted me to give up Ra, then Ra must be valuable in some way. The sun god still had a role to play. I just had to figure out what it was. Carter, Bast frowned. I know you're worried about me, but your parents saved me from the abyss for a reason. Your mother foresaw that I would make a difference in the final battle. I will fight Apophis to the death if necessary. He won't get past me. I wavered. Bast had already helped us so much. She'd almost been destroyed fighting the crocodile god Sobek. She'd enlisted her friend Best to help us, and then seen him reduced to an empty shell. She'd helped us restore her old master, Ra, to the world. Now she was stuck babysitting him. I didn't want to ask her to face Apophis again, but she was right. She knew the enemy better than anyone, except maybe Ra, when he was in his right mind. All right, I said. But Amos will need more help than you can give, Bast. He'll need magicians. Walt frowned. Who? After the disaster in Dallas, we don't have many friends left. We could contact Sao Paulo and Vancouver. They're still with us. But they won't be able to spare that many people. They'll be worried about protecting their own gnomes. I shook my head. Amos needs magicians who know the path of the gods. He needs us, all of us. Walt digested that silently. You mean abandon Brooklyn House? Below us, the ankle biters shrieked with joy as Shelby tried to tag them with her sparking crayons. Khufu sat on the fireplace mantel eating Cheerios, watching 10-year-old Tucker bounce a basketball off the Statue of Thoth. Jazz was putting a bandage on Alyssa's forehead. Probably she'd been attacked by Sadie's rogue thermos, which was still on the loose. In the middle of all this, Cleo was sitting on the sofa, engrossed in a book. Brooklyn House was the first real home some of them had ever known. We'd promised to keep them safe and teach them to use their powers. Now I was about to send them unprepared into the most dangerous battle of all time. Carter, Bass said. They're not ready. They have to be, I said. If the first gnome falls, it's all over. Apophis will attack us in Egypt, at the source of our power. We have to stand together with the Chief Lector. One last battle. Walt gazed sadly at the great room, maybe wondering whether or not he'd die before the battle happened. Should we break the news to the others? Not yet, I said. The rebel magician's attack on the First Gnome won't happen until tomorrow. Let the kids have one last day at school. Bast, when they come home this afternoon, I want you to lead them to Egypt. Use Freak. Use whatever magic you have to. If all goes well in the underworld, Sadie and I will join you before the attack. If all goes well, Bast said dryly. Yes, that happens a lot. She glanced over at the sun god who was trying to eat the doorknob to Sadie's room. What about Ra? She asked. If Apophis is going to attack in 2 days, Ra has to keep making his nightly journey, I said. That's part of Ma'at. We can't mess with it. But on the morning of the equinox, he'll need to be in Egypt. He'll have to face Apophis. Like that? Bast gestured toward the old god. In his loincloth? I know, I admitted. It sounds crazy, but Apophis still thinks Ra's a threat. Maybe facing Apophis in battle will remind Ra who he is. He might rise to the challenge and become what he used to be. Walt and Bast didn't answer. I could tell from their expressions that they didn't buy it. Neither did I. Ra was gumming Sadie's doorknob with intent to kill, but I didn't think he'd be much good against the Lord of Chaos. Still, it felt good to have a plan of action. That was much better than standing around dwelling on the hopelessness of our situation. Use today to organize, I told Bast. Gather up the most valuable scrolls, the amulets, weapons, anything we can use to help the First Gnome. Let Amos know you're coming. Walt and I will head to the underworld and meet Sadie. We'll rendezvous with you in Cairo. Bast pursed her lips. All right, Carter. But be careful of Setne. However bad you think he is, he's 10 times worse. Hey, we defeated the god of evil, I reminded her. Bast shook her head. Set is a god. He doesn't change. Even with the god of chaos, you can pretty much predict how he'll act. Setne, on the other hand, he has both power and human unpredictability. Don't trust him. Swear to me. That's easy, I said. I promise. Walt folded his arms. So how are we going to get to the underworld? Portals are unreliable. We're leaving Freak here, and the boat is destroyed. I have another boat in mind, I said, trying to believe it was a good idea. I'm going to summon an old friend.